as well now.
Okay. All right.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to the 14th edition now of Coffee with Ashish. And today session is extremely special, and to me also personally, because for the first time we've got a consultant. Because in the last almost 13 sessions we have covered, OTAs, we've covered aggregators, we've talked about GDS, we've got corporate travel management companies, we've got cars, but all of them are sort of stakeholders in the travel ecosystem with their specific areas of interest, expertise, and agenda. And I think you almost feel to have sort of a neutral body in place, which we also do in many ways to bring together all these stakeholders, debate and discuss their points of view, and then put forward a consolidated voice to the government, to the different stakeholders, and make sure everybody is heard of. And I think it's a very important role which subject matter experts and consulting organizations do. And I can vouch for it because I used to be a consultant, like a consultant in a typical Big Four 10 years back. So I can almost relive and relive those memories and days, that how and what kind of value a consulting organization offers. And sometimes it may also happen, we've all sort of hearing different announcement by government is happening in terms of MSME package, in terms of Atmanirbhar campaign. Now this domestic aviation sector is going to kick off. New notifications are coming in every day, and it almost becomes very difficult to also make sense and interpret them. And I think to look forward to a guy who can provide wisdom and sort of help you interpret these. And I think that's where you sort of need somebody, who can be your guiding light. And that's where we see, industry leaders like Anshul coming in. But at the same time, I almost always get reminded the kind of intricacies that they also bring in the entire value chain, and how the expectations from what a customer wants and how they get translated, how it goes through a journey. And as always, I have a small cartoon to sort of share that emotion. If you see from left to right, that's where the customer explained it, and you will see on the subsequent right, the project leader understood it in a certain way, then analyst designed it, and the programmer wrote it. But you see the rightmost in the first row is what a business consultant describes it, because that's what they always do. They want to add a cushion and make the experience delightful for you. But on a more serious note, it's extremely important for us to have leaders like Anshul and consulting companies to also in many ways provide a neutral point of view, and not necessarily, because many times in business we sort of get bogged down with our conflicting areas of interest with what we want. But I think neutral organizations are extremely important, and we are so lucky to have you with us today, Anshul. For everybody's reference, Anshul is the is a vice president in Accenture Technology, and he's the industry lead for travel and hospitality sector. Anshul leads offerings, capabilities, innovation, and thought leadership for travel and hospitality at Accenture Group in India. He also works with different business and IT leaders, creating innovative ways for creating a competitive advantage for them. He has worked in different geographies and also managed global hospitality campaigns for different leaders. He's also advised them on cost optimization and faster revenue growth, sales cycles, NPS improvement through channel redesign and enhancement. And he has spearheaded host of innovative domain solutions, non-linear growth models, and next-gen capabilities in terms of emerging areas of technologies, AI, IoT, immersive interfaces. So I think we are in safe hands, guys. We have a leader among ourselves who can, who wears a neutral cap and can actually help us guide through in terms of what lies in the near term and midterm for us as we gaze through this crystal ball. So with this, I'm going to hand it over to Ashish to have a conversation with you, Anshul, while I sit back and enjoy my coffee.
Hey, Anshul, how's your coffee?
Pretty good.
Good to have you.
So herbal one.
Yep. Yeah. So, a crazy black swan moment for the world, as they say. Airplanes are grounded, hotels are closed. We see huge cruise liners docked somewhere at the end. God knows what's going to happen to them. What do you expect differently for travel to happen from here on?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me on this discussion, and I'm sure we can share some insights based on our knowledge, and then the sessions that you had previously. Some of those I was able to attend and quite informative in what's happening around the industry. I will kind of share what I think from some of the global players with whom I have been involved in working, looking at what we could potentially do for them. We have had enough talked about what's wrong right now, but I think there's also a silver lining, and I'll get to that. Just one quick statistic to start with.
Yeah.
We are using Zoom software right now to have this video conference, this session. And the market cap right now of Zoom has actually zoomed up to 48 billion plus.
Wow.
Figures are about a week back or so, and if you add up the market capitalization now for Delta Airlines, Southwest Airlines, United, British, American, Lufthansa, and Air France, the 7 of the world's top airlines together, it is 45 billion. They were at 20 billion plus, I think 2.5-3 months back. What it means is, while airlines have taken the hit of no fault of theirs specifically, it's all situational. At the same time, there's been someone who has actually seen the opportunity and done something, right? So that's the point, the silver lining. While it's a saddening moment with what's happening around to our friends in travel, but I think there is also something that we could do, and that's where I would want to give a sense of where I think travel might go in the next several months and years. And I'm sure you are reading as much as I'm reading around what some of the CEOs of these companies are saying.
Right.
But a quick one, if we recollect, in early 2020, late 2019, people were talking about over tourism quite a lot. Venice, Amsterdam, Prague, several other European destinations, there was over tourism. Skift was running a dedicated report for that. And now, just exactly the opposite of that, right? But things are opening up. There are news which we are seeing around, not just in China, but around, I think, somewhere in Europe, some American cities, some Asian cities as well. Slowly and gradually, things are being planned to open up. It leads way to some, I think, 4 or 5 different avenues that it will expect the travel companies to focus on. New services, whether it's the banquet rooms in hotels being converted to office spaces, whether it's cruise lines who would want to just dock at the shore and open it up as a hotel, people could come in, have lunch and go away, that kind of a thing. Or it's the airline who are reconfiguring their seating to have half cargo and half passenger kind of a thing, or various other things, right? So new services will evolve. Marriott has partnered with Alibaba in China to deliver food to homes, like Zomatos and Swiggy in India, and they have partnered with Zomatos and Swiggy as well in India. So new services, new experiences is the other aspect. So while the new services are going to be launched, the expectation of the customer is very different now. They want safety first. They want, and they say, right, there's a joke going around saying, if nothing else, forced digital revolution or digital transformation upon us, the current situation did. So digital revolution is here and now, it's going to stay forever. Everyone is forced to use it. So the new era of physical plus digital is going to evolve. And I see maybe companies like TripAdvisor, Holiday IQ may have a opportunity out there to enable virtual tourism. I don't know, maybe that's one way to look at it. Not many people are going to be as adventurous to travel to remotest of the places, at least in the next few years to come.
Right.
Third is, among all of this, efficiency is something that is must have. Whether it's virtual collaboration using digital tools, or it's doing more with less, using automation, having lesser workforce, having workforce distributed across the globe, lesser office infrastructure cost, and whatever else in the world. And then the last but not the least, the new innovations. So whether it's the connected rooms, voice agents, health monitors, robotic services, that will come into place. And what will all of this lead to? Services, experiences, efficiencies, and innovations. It will lead to identity. new identity, new brand positioning. Many of the hotel chains, airlines, cruise lines, tour operators, OTAs, the way they used to run their business or what they were known for, maybe they have to reposition themselves. So I think it's a reset for everyone, and new brands will emerge, brands will have a different motto to serve the guests. That's what is in store for us, and it's all right. I think the worst is behind us now. It's only going to get better. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Right. So I'll just squeeze in something on the same point. I've never heard, or I haven't heard myself for a long time, any of my hotel friends say that, that fixed check-in and check-out time to me is a passe. 12 noon check-in, 12 noon check-out. I think the tariffs itself have to be more flexibly defined for transits, maybe hourly, if not hourly, at least bundled in for 6 hours, 8 hours, so on. And the second thing I haven't heard them speak loudly is that most of the services of a hotel, ancillary services, revolve around the guest staying in the hotel. Now, what happens if the guest doesn't stay in the hotel? So therefore, you've got to open up the services around slowly for non-residents also to come and use, be it gyms and restaurants and dining and so on. So just squeezing in additionally to what you're saying. But, Anshul, another thing we've been saying that to recover the demand must happen. And, unfortunately, in 90% of the cases, when I hear that demand must happen, it's been linked to economic growth, right? And the fear factor, so there are the various factors, of course, when you create a demand. We all know that, and we are not getting into a discussion how to create a demand. But it's all linked to economy. But there is a huge fear factor. Even if I had all the economic position in the world, I may still be too scared to travel out of my house. Yeah, we had Warren Getty, who never stepped out of his home for years and ran his business. I mean, so how would you get the fear factor out from the travelers? What thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more that has to happen from providers, as in hoteliers, airliners, cruise liners, to a lot of extent, governments also, local authorities, airports, airport operators. Everyone has to come together and make that happen. Recently, I was hearing, or rather seeing a video of Wizz Airlines, and it was quite a peppy video saying we are ready. And I think I saw something from Marriott Bonvoy also as recent as yesterday, where they said we are ready and I'm going to travel again, kind of a message, right? So that's what most of the companies are doing right now. But if I look at specific focus areas for the travel players, I think there are these few, and I think all of these are very well known. First is health and safety for sure. You would have heard of the Hilton Clean Stay program, and then Airbnb has launched an enhanced cleaning. I think Extended Stay America has launched a clean stay or a stay confident kind of a health and hygiene or cleanliness drive that they have launched across their hotels globally. So everyone is trying to do their bit. Same is for airports. Bangalore Airport launched a video, I think 2 weeks back, where they said we are ready for you, or we are ready to welcome you. So everyone is doing their bit to welcome the guests back. At the same time, they have to ensure that the safety is right, and which is going to cause longer queues at the airports, or longer wait times, or lower throughputs, which will be kind of a friction for the travelers as well as the providers, as in the airports and airlines and hotels. Everyone will have to do a lot more, which means the travel is going to get costlier for sure, and it's also going to get tougher, right, because of this friction that will get created. So the second thing that each provider, each player in the travel ecosystem has to do is lure the customer back to their aircraft, or hotel, or cruise line, or car, rental car for that matter. Everyone will have to lure the customer and create a win-win for both, saying you are safe with us, kind of a thing. So safety, and then creating that attraction. So the loyalty programs that used to be earlier, which were driven around the concept of the more you stay, the more you travel, the more you fly, the more you rent, the higher privileges you have. I think that's going to completely change. There has to be a rethinking on loyalty programs that needs to happen, and there are things which are happening around technology, and to understand how do we redefine the persona. So a lot of data churning is happening to figure out the traditional ways of segmentation of the customers are no longer valid. It's going to be very different.
Yeah.
And the social media trends are helping that at this moment. But things will change. And the last is friction I mentioned, and then I mentioned about, creating an attraction or a pull for the customers, or creating wins for the customers. The last is going to be, travel historically has been, not just in the current situation, travel historically has been an industry where if I want to eat a burger, I have to buy my bun, I have to buy my mayonnaise, I have to buy my, you know what I mean, right? I need to assemble all of that together and then put it properly, put a toothpick from the top and then start eating it, right? That has been the travel for all of us. It has to change. It has to be retailized. So it has to be packaged. It has to be one-stop shop. Not the way it is right now. Not just the way the OTAs have it right now, like you can do A, B, C, D, E, but it has to be more integrated, more natural way of packaging. I think those are the things that we will have to do from a travel standpoint.
Right. So, I think enough of the customer viewpoint. Let's get down to brass tacks on the service providers and the shareholders' expectations. I've come across, and there's not a debate between entrepreneurs versus large companies, but there are shareholders in every business. So I've had calls for various, what do I do? I've invested money in X, Y, Z. I don't know where I'm going, etc. And these are not people who are running the business, but the people who have invested, obviously shareholders. So how do you look at shareholder expectations in today's time?
Yeah, I think it's a tough time for all of us, and we can't deny that. Anyone who has been in this business right now, irrespective of the segment, it's quite tough. And there have to be ways in which working capital can be extracted. Many people are taking packages from the government, and governments are introducing their own way of getting a hand in the board and things like that. But end of the day, what will happen is the wave of consolidation that actually ran in the airlines in North America some time back. I believe that kind of a wave on mergers and acquisition might be out there for European airlines. There are quite a few over there, and maybe APAC. Hospitality across the globe. There are so many mid-sized players, and I think that's going to happen. What it means is, once that will happen, there is a chance some of the markets are going to see monopoly, and there's a higher chance there may be incorrect practices that might creep in. Either those could be system issues. If a thorough check is not put on those systems, automatically the prices may soar. Like, airline prices at certain times have soared during volcanic ash disruption a few years back. So those checks have to be done by the enterprises to ensure that they still have fair practices, while they try to recover some cost by either having truly human workforce, creating a workplace that is very, very amenable to the workforce who would want to come and work. It has to be obviously safe and everything else that is expected by the workforce. Technology is going to play a big role there. Hyper automation, human plus worker, which is a robotic worker kind of a thing, will play. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a robot sitting next to me, but the point is that a lot of things will get automated, which a human is not required to do, and everyone has been pushing it on the back burner for so long. Now is the time when it will actually lead to a lot of optimization of cost in there, and that will lead way for some of the other transformations that I mentioned earlier. Whether it is just maybe running recruitment interviews, or maybe screening of some data, or finding fraudulent activities, all of that could be done by either robotic process automation, or through collaboration tools, sitting remotely, many people working together. Not necessarily they have to commute to office. It will save cost in a way or the other. The components of cost is not necessarily just the labor, but also the associated expenses that the laborers have, the office expenses that people have. So there are going to be savings from many ways, including automation, including an elastic digital workplace, ensuring that the human employment policies are very, very really people focused. And then I think automatically it will happen. Just that, given the current scenario, because of people losing jobs, the loyalty on the job side as well is going to be, I would say, lost loyalty. So people will look for, at the extreme ends, either they're going to be completely freelancing or they're going to be completely loyal. There's no way going to be half here and half there, that kind of a thing. That's what I would suggest might be in store for us.
Right. So, but I mean, the question, you've talked big bucks perhaps to some of the listeners, but how can you actually actualize it? I mean, robotics and the technology words you mentioned is great, but our industry is fragmented, is full of small entrepreneurs. One of my biggest personal hardships in the industry has been, how do we evangelize technology across to reach the smallest denomination? So how do you see this, and where can anybody help? To actually,
sorry. So I will add 2-3 more avenues on, or real examples of technology, how it will definitely help in saving the cost. Automation, whether it be automation is in fixed labor cost, whether it is speeding up tasks, whether it's improving throughput, all of that. Cloud is another big avenue, which is right now, I mean, I don't know if you have seen, I think they have expanded their customer base to twice or thrice or whatever times of what they had 3 months back, Microsoft Teams. And similarly, that's one of the collaboration technology. And similarly on the cloud, the way Amazon AWS was kind of the leader in that space, now Azure is having a great play out in the market. Many of the people are reaching out to Microsoft Azure and see how they can save some cost. The data centers which required electricity, physical space, rental, air conditioning, wiring, hands and feet support, all that is being thought through to see if it can be shut down and everything moved to cloud, so that at a pay-per-use model, I have an elastic thing. I will pay for what I use and not for the bulky machines that are parked in my backyard or in the data centers that I have. So that's a big play that's happening right now on cloud. Collaboration tech I mentioned. Then IoT is also taking a lot of steps forward, especially in ensuring safety. Right now, everyone has to invest in some way or the other in order to ensure that the premises are safe for travelers to come. They can't do it manually all the time. You can't have everything cleaned up 1,000 times. You can't have people just keep sanitizing their hand every time. Just imagine the situation where I go to the front desk of a hotel and I have everything sorted out. I still need the room key. So room keys have to be automated. We call them digital keys or whatever, right? Hilton had implemented it for many of its hotels. Marriott and Starwood erstwhile, Marriott had implemented it in many of its hotels. Others are still catching up. So that's one way IoT is going to help. If I go and I already have my key, but I still have to make the payment. Traditionally, how do you make the payment? I'll have to hand over my credit card at the front desk. But that's not good enough, right? Is the front desk agent going to sanitize the card before taking, or wear gloves and then sanitize the card and give it back to me? And all those are nitty-gritties that have to be sorted out. New solutions have to be created, saying in your mobile app itself, you go to your room, once you are done, you make the payment over there and you are done. You have a remote checkout. Technology has to enable all this, right? And there may be a little bit IoT where your room key, if you have, or your digital room key itself is going to enable all the access through the hotels, etc., etc., etc. While I say it seems to be a little bit rocket science, but it is not actually. A lot of people have implemented in bits and pieces, and it's kind of being done at a firefighting speed at this moment. Robust security, and we must not forget, while there are so many benevolent people out there, so many good people out there, there are also hackers who are trying to make use of the situation, and there have to be measures taken to ensure we don't even leave the smallest hole open for hackers to come in saying, I want it at speed, I don't have money for this, I don't have time for this. Whatever we do has to be secure, otherwise it's going to be much bigger problem than what it is right now. People are sitting out there. So in short, we would want self-funded technology transformation funded through some of these IoT, cloud, automation, AI, collaboration type of tools, and then funded for health, safety, getting the customer back, enabling the next generation experience, and innovating to be the leader in space when there is going to be lesser competition in future. Right. Those are my thoughts.
Just again to slip in, I was speaking to one of the largest inbound travel company CEOs in India. I said, look, the transport sector is highly unorganized, and I'm just looking at what government has fixed for transport sector to do, that the steering wheel should be sanitized and wiped before the driver touches it. I say, you're hiring a car in Jamshedpur or Patna for a foreign guest. I said, you sitting in Delhi have no way of knowing that whether this is being implemented or not. So I said, as far as I'm concerned, the world is concerned, you are the chief security and a safety officer. If something happens to your guest, it's your neck. So how do you make sure? I said, somewhere you will have to hold the driver responsible in technology, that he actually puts in a checklist of sort to say, yes, I've been through all the procedure and now I've satisfied myself. And so at least get the buck to stop with him. I mean, he could still be lying and not feeding in the data into the app. But I said, if you look at it, and the worst, if I may add, Anshul, that if various countries in Europe and various countries in the world have their own protocols, if its hotels have their own protocol, then you're going to have huge humongous amount of protocol for one single traveler who transits through various, So you're right, absolutely, we'll have to build technology, and COVID is here to stay. It's not in 6 months, all this will go away. And, let's just grind our teeth and bear. I agree with you. And one more thing I want to add as a prelude to your cost thing is that travel companies and tour operating companies don't realize that wastage is a huge cost. If you are in a manufacturing industry, then you actually actualize your raw material and wastage cost. I used to work at some stage as a trainee with the Oberois. They had a sign in their kitchen which said, this plate is costing so much, this knife is so. If anybody broke it, they immediately realized the cost of breaking a plate, for example, while cleaning it. But human wastage is such a big cost in the travel. They don't realize that their staff who they pay sitting 24/7, the time they waste in terms of handling one single inquiry, be it on a manual basis, and so if they brought efficiencies into the process, you'll be able to save huge manpower costs and efficiencies bringing in for sure. Yeah, one last word on that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And the best out of what you said is everyone can't do different things. They can't do all of it manually. They have to have certain practices in place to be able to, bring all of that at a level where people feel, yes, if I go to, a unit A, unit B, unit C, unit D, or a flight A, B, C, D, or a hotel A, B, C, D of a particular brand, I am safe, and I can assume that it's all to the expectations that I have, to the specifications that they have shared, which will require good amount of work. And governments have taken a step. It is just that some other intermediaries or the governing bodies, I would say FICCI Travel and Technology Committee and associations like this have to step forward, like what we are discussing right now, to help our friends, have to come forward, like ICAOs of the world, like American Hotel and Lodging Association in America, who have laid it out. That has to happen.
I agree with you. So can we move back to Karthik to see if we have any audience questions, Karthik?
Yeah, thanks, Ashish. We do, and thanks, Anshul, for this, insightful session. I mean, for me, personally, the biggest takeaway is how you mentioned the interplay of IoT, smart digital keys in hotels, contactless payments, and now RPA, all of them getting together and making a physical world possible. And as you rightly said, and I'm also going to reiterate it for some of our audience members, because some of them run small to medium travel agencies, that these are all technologies which are already there. And in some shape or form, as Anshul was saying, they're already being implemented, and they don't cost a bomb, because many times there's a perception in the travel community that technology is only for large players like Hilton and Make My Trip. If I'm a small time agent, I can afford this. So many of these technologies are becoming democratized, and they're also becoming more and more affordable. So there is a lot of positive side to it. So I've got a few questions, Anshul, and I'm going to consolidate them into two broad buckets. So one I've got is, although we've talked about travel intermediaries and different stakeholders, one set of questions I want to ask you is, what is your view on travel tech companies? So there are a lot of OTAs which are already there. Meta search engines are there. A lot of tech companies who have built, from dynamic itinerary building to AI-enabled travel buddy of sorts. These kind of companies have been there and raising significant amount of funding in the last few years. How do you see these kind of B2C focused online travel search, inspiration, and booking sort? Let's say, what can I do different? I mean, whatever stakeholders are doing,
are doing. What different can I do in my business? That's one. Second is from a corporate travel perspective. I mean, somebody like you are the perfect example who probably travels a lot and maybe has an implant in the office who takes care of your corporate requirements. That might change with
or be due to budgetary constraints, or maybe due to not having, because of social distancing, you may not have a physical person in the office as an implant. How do you see corporate travel changing significantly from the whole process of booking a corporate travel to experiencing it? How do you see that change in the corporate traveler experience?
I mean, and I would extend that. First, I'll answer the travel tech companies related question that you asked. I think those companies are here to stay. It is just that the way travelers have been consuming those services might be a little bit more prone to scrutiny, and people are going to get more choosy to see what I want to book and what I want to pick and all of that. If you have no differentiation in your offerings and you are just providing the listing of 100 hotels or 1000 hotels or 10 flight options and things like that, you may not be doing anything better than someone else who's doing it, right? As I mentioned earlier, companies like Holiday IQ or companies like TripAdvisor might be able to, if because they have a lot of original authentic content, if that plus maybe immersive reality based sightseeing etc could be punched into their offerings because they already know enough about it, plus what a typical OTA does, I think that's a unique proposition. In a nutshell, I'm not saying that that is exactly what needs to happen, but that's just one of the options that may happen. People have to come together to help each other. The hyper siloed market that used to exist earlier in terms of there are 10 OTAs and 1000 hotel companies and 200 government shop travel players or travel agents and whatever else, it was so fragmented. They have to come together for the benefit of the traveler to lure them, to make it easier for them. That applies. From the other question that you had, corporate travel, I would extend that a little bit to meetings and events also, because that was also a significant share of business for the hoteliers. And doesn't look like it's going to come back so soon, so fast, as much as it was earlier. So it's going to be a slower thing. What might get people back is they can actually enable technology to do half of it. So meetings and events, if it was supposed to be a completely 2-day, 3-day kind of an outing, people would come and meet and have conferences, etc. What can be done collaboratively through digital tools? What really requires people to travel? It's definitely going to come down, but still there is going to be a significant business because people would want to have face-to-face meetings. Still, people would want to come forward even if they are wearing a mask and sitting in a conference room and talking to each other. Still, people would want to do that. It is just that maybe the business is going to shrink by 50% or whatever that number is. So adoption of digital tools to enable and show them what they are going into, make those choices, be a lot more choosy, satisfy the need of the customer, even if it's the corporate traveler or if it's the corporates who want to do meetings and large events. All of that has to be satisfied. So digital is going to play a big role. And when I say digital, I just don't mean one set of technologies. I mean the gamut of technologies which exist out there. Even if it is complete touchless enablement in a expo which is being created, right? No one touches anyone. You don't need keys. You don't need tags. Everything is digital, and you're roaming around all services on mobile, etc. So I think that's a long answer to this question.
Last closing thought. Do you also think it's going to also change the way? I remember, in good old days, especially in consulting, so you would always ask, "Are you open to traveling?" Because you have to travel significantly. That used to be a question, right? People used to ask. Do you think now they'll look in your health records and say, "Are you healthy?" That's the first thing. You may or may not like travel, but people who are healthy will have a distinctive advantage, and people who are sick, from an inclusion perspective, do you think they'll be sort of discriminated, for lack of a better word, that everything else is right, but you get cold or cough enough, so you cannot travel and you miss out on those opportunities? Do you see those trends also coming in?
I think they will come. And also, like after 9/11, we had the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, got launched, right? Some news I was reading a general comment saying that maybe THA, Transportation Health Administration, come into existence. Something like TSA would come into existence. And then there are going to be health health indicators. People like, if you go to Africa, you need to have certain vaccines, you need to have a certificate
Yeah,
of taking
like,
something like that. We in World Economic Forum, along with World Economic Forum, Accenture had actually done a concept called known traveler digital identity about a couple of years back, and then just a lot more around it. Basically, the point is individuals are going to have their digital identity, which will have their maybe extended to health records as well, not just their immigration records, not just their identity records, but a lot more can happen there. Maybe their retail preferences could also go on to that, and emergency contact numbers and the doctors that you want, the medicines that you take, and it'll be in your choice to really share what you want to share with people in different situations. So lot is going to change, and it's changing right now.
Ashish, do you have any closing remarks?
No, I think it's been a very enterprising session with Anshul. And Anshul, I can only say, let's continue this. I think
Absolutely.
there's a lot to debate.
I think we can keep talking about this for hours and hours and hours. And I'm sure if it was any bit helpful to the people who are listening, or the people who will listen to this, that is my takeaway from this.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming in. And see you
Thank
soon.
you. Thanks so much, Anshul. So happy to have you. Thanks, Ashish. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you next week with our session with Mr. Shyam Nijavan of Nijavan Group. Till then, stay safe, stay at home, take care, have a good day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.